Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan here today, talking about the 5th house in astrology. The fun house. So, in the 1st house, okay, let's summarize from the 1st house to the 4th house a little bit. So in the 1st house, we were aware of ourself, that this is me, I have a self, you know, I'm born and I'm aware that I have a self. In the 2nd house, I'm aware that I have possessions and things around me, and I'm aware of my 5 senses and what I can do and experience with those 5 senses. In the 3rd house, I'm moving to my mind. I'm aware that I have a mind and, you know, I can use it for logical thinking, interact with my environment. In the 4th house, I go into my soul, and I'm aware of my inner self and where I actually came from in terms of my ancestors and my roots. So 1 to 4, okay? All these houses, me, 5th house, right? Wow, this is who I am. I feel so alive. I can't believe that this is me. I want to express this to the world as creatively as possible. I want to show the world that this is who I am. That's the 5th house. So, therefore, I call this the house of your self-expression, the awareness of your self-expression. In the 5th house, we are creating just for the joy of creating, you know, because it's in our nature. And that's why we're doing it, because it's fun. And we can express ourselves and show the world who we are and be recognized for that. You know, it's like the sun, right? It's bright and it shines and everybody sees it and everybody loves it. That's what we want to be able to do in the 5th house. So the planets that are located within your 5th house is going to show the style and the manners of the things that we create, our work of art, the hobbies that we take on, the sports and recreational activities that we take on. It's the style of all of those things. So because this house is the house of being special, one of the things that we do in life to feel special and validated and loved and being recognized is we have romantic relationships with people, okay? Because in romance, we are adored and we're loved and we're cherished for who we are. We feel special, okay? It's different from the 7th house, which is the house of commitments, where, you know, we have to compromise and we have to negotiate things so that we can be with somebody long term. But in the 5th house, it's the fun of the romance, so that we can express ourselves and feel special in this, you know, interaction with somebody, okay? The sign on your 5th house, sign that rules your 5th house, and the planets that are in the 5th house. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you guys that, okay, as usual, of course, check which sign rules your 5th house and which planets you have there, and please leave them in the comments below so we can share our experiences with each other and learn from one another. Okay, so back to the 5th house. Right, so the sign that rules your 5th house and the planets in the 5th house can also indicate the type of people, the vibes or the auras of the type of people that you get into romantic relationships with, and the style of your romantic relationships. The 5th house is also the house of children, right? Because, you know, a part of wanting to pass down our specialness is through children, and children is also a creation. Okay, it's a creative process. It's a life generating process, which is the 5th house, you know, vitality and life and those kinds of things. It is a creation that we make from our body, and it becomes an extension of ourself. Now, this also means that the 5th house can also indicate our inner child, okay, and how that was nurtured when we were younger, or how that might not have been nurtured properly, and could also therefore indicate a damaged inner child if that's the case. Okay, so to quickly summarize, the 5th house is the house of our awareness of our ability to have creative self-expression. So we try to do that through activities that we engage in order for us to feel special about who we really are, okay? And there are several things that we do to feel this specialness and recognition. There is the engagement in a romantic life, a romantic relationship. There's hobbies that we partake. There's children that we have, and there's the need to feed the inner child. So in my example, my 5th house is ruled by the sign of Libra, and Pluto, the bad boy. Actually, Pluto's not a bad boy. Bad boy's like Mars and Saturn. Pluto's like hell. Pluto's the devil. I got the devil in my 5th house. Okay, so anyways, Pluto's in the 5th house, and also asteroid Lilith. Okay, not dark moon, not black moon Lilith, but asteroid Lilith. Yeah, so Pluto is in Scorpio, and asteroid Lilith is also in Scorpio, conjunct in the 5th house. So, okay, let's talk about the fact that my 5th house is ruled by Libra first. So, yeah, I'm someone who actually likes having fun. You know, I can just really enjoy I just really enjoy the pleasures of life, like going out, having a good time, listening to good music, and all those kinds of things. But because Libra rules Venus, and my Venus is actually placed in the 12th house, so sometimes I can enjoy doing these things by myself a lot, but I don't mind doing it with other people as well, of course. Yeah, I just enjoy all kinds of art, actual art, you know, drawings, paintings, and things like that, and music, and movies, you know, all those kinds of things. But because Pluto is here, the kinds of art and music and movies that I tend to enjoy can have a bit of a darker edge to them, like vampire movies and things like that. Like in my free time, I find watching, you know, The Walking Dead or like the Vampire Diaries or just something dark and a bit of a fantasy, dark fantasy kind of movies to be enjoyable, witches and things like that. You know, this new series which came out, The Discovery of Witches, you know, things like that to be really enjoyable, as opposed to something like, you know, The Office. I do like to watch The Office, but it's just not dark enough, you know? And I have this really weird habit of like, there was a time when I would watch Grey's Anatomy, and I'd like to watch it while I'm having food, like when I'm having dinner or something, I would put on Grey's Anatomy. And I know that kind of grosses a lot of people out because of all the surgery and the blood and all that stuff, but it doesn't gross me out. It's normal, you know? It's the human body, right? We have blood inside ourselves, and I'm kind of not grossed out by those things, and it's kind of weird that I watch them when I'm eating, but just do. With Pluto here, I would say that, okay, when I was in high school, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the IB, you know, curriculum, but I took like IB art higher level, so I was like very into painting and all those kinds of things. But a lot of my work actually flourished after I broke up with a boyfriend that I used to have back in high school, and I was in a lot of pain. And I used this pain to paint and to, you know, create artwork. So that's a way of managing pain when you have Pluto in the 5th house. And it can be really kind of like extreme when it comes to managing pain. Well, I guess after university, I had another difficult relationship, and we broke up, and I had another heartbreak. So I went really extreme, and I was traveling by myself, and I went paragliding and all those kinds of things, and just very extreme Pluto expression of pain from love, and okay, I think you get the idea. The really like one of the really uncomfortable things of having Pluto here when it comes to, like, you know, being recognized and things, is that I can be a little obsessed with being recognized as being somebody in the world. There's an obsessive energy to it. It's almost like I feel like, oh, I am born for something special in the world. Of course, I realize now that that's not the case. And, you know, like seeing the kinds of videos that people have here on YouTube has opened up my eyes to the limitless possibilities of creative expression. That it's not just like there's one way in which you are supposed to express yourself or you're supposed to create. There's limitless possibilities, and that kind of humbles me down a little bit. And I've realized that, you know, there's no point in being obsessive over this thing. You know, you just do what you love and put your whole heart into it, and it doesn't matter if nobody cares or nobody likes it, okay? Because you're being true to yourself, you know, you're being authentic to your own expression, and that's the most important thing. So that's something that I've been learning to do, you know, with Pluto here. So, okay, so now when it comes to the whole romantic, you know, life aspect of the 5th house, having Pluto here is really hard, obviously, in Scorpio. But what I have noticed is that, I mean, you could probably try to do this within your own chart, you know, with planets and signs that's ruling the house. So like, it could be pretty fun to do. So like, for example, this house is ruled by Libra, okay? And it has Pluto there in Scorpio. So I've noticed that the people that I've dated have actually had a lot of Libra, Scorpio in them. Yeah, like I've dated my first kind of puppy love crush kind of person was actually a Scorpio, and then after that I dated a guy who had a Libra rising, a Taurus with a Libra rising. After that, a Libra sun with a Libra rising and Scorpio Mercury. After that, it was a Libra moon guy with his moon in the 8th house, which is ruled by Scorpio. And then after that, a Cancer guy with a Libra moon. And then after that, a guy with a Scorpio rising, and his moon was in the 8th house, which is the house of Scorpio. And I think his Pluto was like conjunct the ascendant, but it was in the 12th house, but like very close to the ascendant. And then, I mean, yeah. And then another person who had their Pluto conjunct their IC, their, like, you know, their inner self had Pluto there. So yeah, I mean, you could probably try to do this and see if it's like a coincidence the way that, you know, I'm describing mine. And I think it probably might be. It's really funny how, you know, astrology can just be just mind-blowingly accurate. So I think with Pluto being here, you know, Pluto being the planet of like death and regeneration and transformation, yeah, I have to say that with every relationship that I've been in, like romantic encounters, it has caused me to, in order for me to get over it, get over the pain, I had to change a lot of things about myself. Sometimes I have to change my whole direction in life, you know, and things like that in order to kind of get over it. But the dynamic of these romantic encounters was like a deep well that you see it from afar and you're like, this looks like a dangerous well, but I'm gonna try to go in anyways. And you find yourself going in the well and you sink in very deep, okay? And because the well is so dark and moist and deep, it's like you have to change a lot of your habits or a part of yourself, like a lot of things about yourself in order to survive within this well. And sometimes it's really suffocating and you stay there, you know, until it starts to rot. And you still don't leave, like you're still in that rotting well. It's like a rotting well of unhealthy obsessions and manipulations and control and abuse, you know, physical and emotional and verbal, and it's rotting, but you're still in it, you know. And you know that you can't get out of the well, but If you stay in there, you're gonna start to slowly die. But if you get out of the well, you're gonna also have to die because you're gonna have to adjust your whole system again, you know? It's better to leave. So when you do leave the well, it's like a biological, it's like a process of having to reprogram your biological makeup over again so that you can survive outside of the well, because you had changed so much of your biology to fit with the conditions of the well. I know this sounds really vague, but if you really think about it, okay, like when you're with someone who is controlling and manipulative and maybe abusive and things like that, you have to change your biology. Like if somebody tells you, okay, for example, you go out with somebody and they're like, don't look at that guy. Like they get possessive and they say like, why are you looking at that guy? And maybe you're not even like looking, maybe you're just like looking around and your eye just happens to land on that person, right? So what you end up doing is you end up altering your muscles almost to fit that the demands of that controlling person. So you kind of almost like learn to tense your muscles, learn to keep your head down, learn to look at the floor when you are outside, and things like that. Okay, this is an example. So that becomes like your new biological system, kind of almost, right? So if you leave that well, you have to start to loosen your muscles, you have to start to look up when you walk, you have to start to smile when you walk and not keep your head down all the time and things like that. So in a way, it is a death of yourself, a death of your body, but it regenerates a new habit and it makes you stronger in a way. That's what Pluto does. It takes you to the extremes of something so that you can learn the hard way how to fight for yourself, how to fight for your life. And Pluto is very much of a fighter, you know. It tells you that even though you're gonna have to die and be reborn, that's what you have to do. That's what you have to fight. So I think after some analysis of like unhealthy relationship patterns, I have come to realize that maybe because Pluto is so subconscious, you better be careful with Pluto because it's very subconscious, it operates so subtly. It brings in this fear from the very first relationship that I had, which was a major extreme heartbreak, whatever, like 60 years old girl stuff. Yeah, like that extreme, unpredictable, but very extreme, psychologically stressful event instills fear within you so that you can learn the hard way how to get rid of that fear. And it was a fear of being alone, a fear of having to go through that experience again. And it causes some codependency in me, which was very unhealthy. And, you know, in each relationship after that, it was Pluto's harsh learning experience of how to stop being codependent. Hard way. Okay, guys, so that's my interpretation of the 5th house. If you have any planets there, please leave them in the comments below. And oh, I think I just exhausted myself talking about Pluto in the 5th house. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and and hit the subscribe button below. If you've already subscribed, thank you very much. If you have been following me on these astrology growth journeys, growing together, then thank you very much. And I don't mean to be so negative about Pluto, but you know, how do I say this? It's really hard to understand what Pluto is trying to do to you until you get to the end of the other side, you know, until you come out on the other side. And you've removed all fears, and you've become braver, and you've become more courageous, and you've become more self-reliant, and you see the truth of the situation, the core. Pluto pushes you to the core of everything. So if Pluto is in your 5th house, like the way it's in my 5th house, it pushes you to the core of romance. That, you know, that you're supposed to understand that these extremes in romantic relationships exist on this earth. You're not the only one to experience this. Everybody, I mean not everybody, but a lot of people do experience it. And how do you get out of that? The way that you get out of that makes who you are. The way that you have fought through that, that's going to be the core of who you are. And, you know, it's in a way building strength within you, all right? So Pluto is an awesome planet to have once you get to the other side. But how do you even get to the other side? You have to be on the dark side of it first before you can get to the other side. Okay, so anyways, guys, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.